My boyfriend wants me to lie and say that it was me driving my car when actually it was him who had a single car incident. If it's proven that it's him, he will probably lose his car insurance. I want to help him, but I don't know what to do. Earlier this morning, we were coming back from a party in my car, and my boyfriend was speeding and absolutely plowed into cars parked on the street in front of a donut shop. My car is totaled, and the other two cars probably are as well. The cops showed up in record time, and while we were separated, he told them that it was me who was driving. The donut shop apparently had video and caught the whole thing, and they told him that the video seemed to show him driving, but it wasn't clear, so they would take his word for it. The cops then wrote me 3 tickets for speeding, losing control of a vehicle, and reckless driving. I was so in shock that I didn't even know what to say, and I just signed the tickets. We got an Uber home and got into a huge fight, and I was just exasperated that he would do this to me. He then reminded me that if he took credit for the accident, he would lose his job and his car insurance would be unaffordable, so he couldn't get to work anyways. I said, well, my car is gone, and my rates are going to skyrocket. He promised he would help me buy a new car and also help with my increased insurance rates. The accident was about 6 hours ago now, and I still haven't called my insurance company to report the accident. Of course, the other 2 people who had cars totaled probably have called. Thus, my insurance probably already thinks that I caused the accident and are looking to destroy my rates going forward. I'm so angry. I have no idea what to even do. I don't want my boyfriend to lose his job, but I don't want to be screwed because he was driving like an asshole. I would love any advice. In the comments, Giraffe Kickball says, "You realize that you committed a crime, right? Post it on r/legal advice and find out what could happen to you. I'm not a lawyer, but I'd love to read their responses." Edited to add, "Your boyfriend is a piece of shit, a #1 piece of shit." OP says, "I realize that, but at least at the moment I want relationship advice about what I should do with him and what he expects me to do for him." Giraffe Kickball then replies, "Well, I just pointed out that he's a piece of shit. Do you want to be involved with someone like this? Do you want to lose your insurance and commit fraud over something like this? Is it worth it? Likely he was driving drunk. He could have killed you and others on the road." And OP says, "I wish this were an easy answer. I know that we're bad for each other sometimes, but I do love him." Dude, he's literally perfect in every other way, except for when he drunk drives with me in there and crashes the car. But otherwise, and the fact that he made me take the fall for it and commit fraud. But he's literally perfect, and I know that we're bad for each other sometimes. Oh my god, OP, no. Macy Mum says, "What the hell? No. This is breakup time and call the police and set the record straight time. Why would it be so wrong for his insurance to go up, but it's okay for your insurance to go up? Why would he lose his job? That's not a normal consequence for an accident. Why is it okay to risk having you charged with insurance fraud and becoming uninsurable? He's the one who drove like an asshole, and he should pay the consequences. Also, he's shown you that he has absolutely zero sense of morality or ethical behavior and would not hesitate to harm you in his own self-interest. No, no, no." OP says, "He would lose his job because part of his work is driving a construction truck for his uncle. He has so many points as is, he'll lose his license and not be able to drive for work. He's on pretty thin ice with his uncle anyways, so this would no doubt push him over the edge into firing him. Babe, he literally risked his livelihood, both your licenses, your likelihood to be prosecuted for a felony, and your lives. Just because he decided to speed and may have been drunk driving, and he had no issue throwing you under the bus and saying, 'Oh, it was her.' Like, who does that? If those people had been in their cars and had been killed, you would be in custody right now. And now he's sulking because you won't have sex with him? What? Honestly, he doesn't sound like he cares 1 iota about you. He sounds like a child. Actually, a child would probably have more decency and empathy than this guy. You're over here freaking out over what this means for your life and whether you'll get arrested and whether you'll be able to afford to ever drive a car again, and he's being an asshole, not consoling you, moaning over you not being in the mood, and listening to loud music. And he's made things worse for you and guilted you into taking the blame and committing fraud. Like, if he wanted to keep his license, maybe he could have been a good driver instead of driving like a maniac repeatedly? Do yourself a favor, call a lawyer, go back to the police with them, and set the record straight. You were woken up from sleep by a freaking car crash and were in shock, plus perhaps the video shows which side of the car your boyfriend exited from. Hang on in there. Oh, and last but not least, dump his sorry ass. He doesn't care about you, he's not good for you, he thinks nothing of risking your life. You can do much, much better. And OP says, the video is actually only in front of the store, so I remember very clearly the cop saying that it looked like it could be him, but not enough to go against his word, or something along those lines. We came to a stop about 20 feet on the other side of the store, so I guess that was out of the camera, or the police would have seen who got out first. Plus, we both had to go out driver door because mine was smashed shut. OP added in the comments, he used to drag race, so he's pulled over a lot and caused a ton of vehicle and property damage. OP on other people involved in the accident. Both really new cars, both couples were older people who were stopping for coffee. Thank God they were not in or around the cars, or they would have been killed. My God, the bar has fallen out of existence, has it not? Why she's with this guy at all boggles my mind. And I don't even know if the sex would be worth it for that amount of just putting your life in danger all the time. Is it really worth it? Drag racer with a huge record of car and property damage. He's already on thin ice with his uncle and you let him drink drive in your car? I don't know about all that, sis. I would be taking the advice of the comments and dumping this right back on him and then dumping him. It's time that we have boundaries. It's time for you to have a spine and to stand up for yourself in this situation. Please. And now, onto the update. So basically, at the advice of this thread, I stopped posting and called my mum and dad, who I really hadn't spoken to since I moved in with my boyfriend, and said that I was leaving him. I was scared and begged to be picked up. This was at about 1:30 a.m. They said they'd be over right away. I had to lock myself in the bathroom, and my boyfriend must have heard me making the call because he started trying to beat the door down and I was terrified. When the door didn't go down easy, I could hear him smashing things out in the living room of the apartment and kitchen. I stayed on the phone with my mum while my dad called 911 on his phone. I stayed locked in the bathroom, and he occasionally would try to break the door down again and again. All this time I was crying and so freaking scared, and he was screaming and calling me every name in the book. We have neighbors with kids, and I heard the kids wake up and start crying, and then I'm pretty sure I heard one of the dads beating on our front door, telling the boyfriend to shut up. Cops showed up just before my parents and immediately put him in handcuffs and put him on the couch. They started taking statements from me and the neighbors. I came out of the bathroom and he looked like a raging, chained-up psychopath. Everything, and I mean everything in our apartment is destroyed. Walls, plates, pictures, TV, Xbox, ironing board, chairs. My clothes were thrown all over the balcony. My makeup was smashed against the wall, and my stuffed animals that I was given as a baby were ripped apart. I have no idea how long it was, but it was crazy he did so much damage in such a short period of time. My dad and my mum showed up, and my mum started bawling because she hadn't seen me in so long, and my dad looked like he wanted to kill my boyfriend, but with the police there, he composed himself really well. We had to stay during the time the police took everyone's statements. It was clear that he was going to be arrested for a ton of stuff. I started telling them what caused all of this, and the story from earlier in the morning, so the officer asked me to get the tickets, and it turns out the officer who wrote the ticket this morning is the guy from the night incident's direct supervisor. So they're going to talk today, and if need be, maybe go back to the donut place and look at the footage. Then the worst thing of all happened. My mum was standing sort of by the door, and as they were taking my boyfriend out in handcuffs, my mum gave him a really nasty look, and he said something like, If she goes home with you, you'll just have another one who blows their brains out. My older brother committed suicide when he was 17 and I was 10. My mum has never gotten over it, and neither have I, really. And my mum reached out and slapped him as hard as she could. So then the police had no choice but to arrest her as well. They were nice about it and loosely handcuffed her and took her in one of the squad cars. So I got dressed and tried to pack up and salvage whatever I could, while my dad went down to bail out my mum. One of the 3 police officers stayed in the parking lot in his car just in case any of my boyfriend's boys showed up while I got what I could. My mum was in and out pretty quickly and is facing a misdemeanor battery charge, which will probably go nowhere. But as you can imagine, while my parents were very happy to get me, they were extremely pissed at what had transpired not only yesterday, but in the last 6 months or so. I had a very long road ahead to repair the relationship with them. My dad has been mostly silent, but he did take me to the family attorney so he could start working on the stuff from the accident. He said that it shouldn't be too hard to get me out of the tickets, and women, especially, take the fall for the husbands' and boyfriends' accidents way more than you would think. I'll probably still have to show up for court, but by that time, the investigation to show my boyfriend was the one really driving should be concluded, and I will be dismissed. However, the thing that really sucks is that my state is a permissive use state, meaning that my insurance has to cover anyone who is driving my car. There's a good chance that my insurance company will fight it out with his company for overall liability, and it won't be as bad, but I'm still going to take a massive hit on car insurance premiums for a long time. Another good thing is that the lease to the apartment is totally in his name, so I won't be responsible for any damages there. Plus, I didn't do anything to put holes in walls, and I can just walk away from that. This whole thing sucks so much because even after all that happened, and as crazy as he was, I know that I still have feelings for him that I need to get in serious therapy right away to start dealing with. I can't have someone so destructive in my life who was willing to let me take the fall for all of his crap and then scared the life out of me and threatened me. In the comments, FetchDogFetch says, OP, this is a very common situation. Loser guy with bad driving records are constantly conning meek girlfriends into taking the fall for them. Don't be just another mark to another loser. Reason number 945, why older women are so jaded. OP replies, that's what my lawyer told me this morning. It happens a lot, and as such, police and courts aren't so surprised when women go back on initial statements when they realize what's at stake. And final comment from OP, I just left him last night with a long road ahead to repair things with a lot of people. Tiny Sydney says, quote, my mum reached out and slapped him as hard as she possibly could. Given what was said, I know the cops shouldn't get latitude, but if you're being such a shitbag, you're trying to get a reaction. Just giving someone what they so obviously want shouldn't be a crime sometimes. Zealous Ideal replies, the way I see it, cops aren't lawyers or judges or a jury. They have zero training in law. I tried to look up how long they receive training in general for, and the first things that came up was that there is no federal minimum. Also a headline saying that they receive less training than plumbers, and a bunch more saying that it's not enough, and going into why. Maybe in this case it feels like anyone could just give her a pass, but it's not up to them to decide if something should be considered a crime or not, and it shouldn't be up to them. That should be left for a courtroom. It sounds like she got a slap on the wrist, which is what should happen, so it's not an issue. Raindog says, holy shit, what a great example that the people who love you are never really that far away, even when you've pushed them away. People who have gone low contact or no contact with you probably have conditions where they'd like to reverse the low contact or no contact, and one of the best conditions a parent can hear about is a willingness to walk away from a piece of shit who is leading to a parent's worst fears. Call them. Yeah, and as much as we like to go on about going low contact or no contact, depending on the reason, I can absolutely see why some people would open the door and leave the door open for, ever reconnecting like that. Especially this one being one of those extreme circumstances where you're like, yeah, I know this isn't going to go well for my daughter. I hope that she stays safe, and I'm always going to be here for her when the time is right. It's unfortunate that a lot of people have to learn the hard way not to do stupid things like insurance fraud, but if you don't learn the hard way, I don't think you're going to learn at all. So better now than much later down the track with something even more serious than this. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope all is well in the future and that he stays the hell away from you. Our next post is by user Boring Committee, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for wanting to give up my son after discovering that he isn't mine? I, 32 male, am shattered and I don't know where to turn. My wife passed away last month, only 7 months after giving birth to our son. She developed peripartum cardiomyopathy, a rare and severe form of heart failure that can occur in the months following childbirth. Despite the doctor's best efforts, she didn't survive. Losing her so suddenly has left me heartbroken and in a state of constant grief. 3 weeks ago, my wife's best friend came over to visit. She was visibly nervous and eventually told me that she had something sensitive to share. After some hesitation, she revealed that my wife had confided in her that she had been unfaithful around the time that our son was conceived and that there was a chance that he might not be mine. I was stunned and angry. My wife's best friend was telling me this only weeks after my wife's death, and it felt like an attempt to tarnish her memory. I couldn't believe it. I told her to leave and to not come back, convinced that she was lying or trying to shift blame onto me somehow. The whole thing felt like a betrayal, and I tried to push the thought out of my mind. But once the idea was planted, it wouldn't go away. I kept wondering, what if she was telling the truth? After days of tormenting myself with this possibility, I decided to get a DNA test. It wasn't an easy decision. I felt guilty for even considering it, but I needed closure. Yesterday, the results came back. My worst fears were confirmed. My son isn't biologically mine. Now I'm in turmoil. I loved my wife and I wanted to believe that our son was a piece of her and me together, but knowing he's not biologically mine has left me feeling lost and betrayed. I keep looking at him, trying to feel the same bond, but the pain of my wife's infidelity is so fresh, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to move past it. I feel awful even considering it, but I don't know if I can raise him on my own. The betrayal I feel is overwhelming, and I don't know if I'm capable of giving him the love and care that he deserves. It's breaking my heart, and I feel like a failure, but I also feel like I'm not equipped to give him the life that he deserves. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, I Know Somethings Too says, "Not the asshole. It's not the child's fault. You should tell your wife's family so they can take him. I worry if you raise him that you'll always resent him. I'm so sorry for your loss and for your wife's betrayal. Please get therapy so you can heal. Best of luck, OP." Blue Boost says, "Not the asshole. Give her parents their grandbaby." Decent Dig says, "Not the asshole. I'm sorry this has happened. Unfortunately now here's a reminder of betrayal and a reminder that your life with your wife was a lie. It might be best to put him up for adoption or let your wife's family take him. You will never have the bond with him that you would have had if this truth had not been uncovered." OP replies, "I haven't told anyone yet about the test. However, I think it'd be best if I do so immediately." Desert Girl says, "Social worker here. Since OP was married at the time of the wife's death, he is considered the legal father in the eyes of the family court. At this time, DNA has established that he is not the biological father, therefore he will need to have his parental rights terminated to avoid any legal responsibility to the affair child. OP needs to contact a family law attorney and start legal proceedings to identify the biofather and terminate his rights." McMurmel asks, "Have you thought to call her friend and ask who the father is? That took a lot for her to tell you. She could have never told you if she wanted to. The right thing to do first is attempt to find this guy and inform him." And OP says, "I haven't contacted her since that day. However, your suggestion is sound, and I would definitely contact her for his details, if she has any. If your wife's friend doesn't know who the affair partner is, you could also work with a forensic genealogist to find out." Back up to the post, there's an edit. "I hadn't thought of contacting the friend, but I will now. The replies have really solidified what I've been feeling. The child is innocent, but I don't think I'd be able to love or care for him as well as I should. Informing the family will be my first step, then contacting the affair partner if possible. Adoption is going to be my last resort. Many of you believe that I'm a monster, but put yourself in my situation. I hope you all understand. Edit 2. So I called a friend, and I apologized for my behavior, but also asked why she didn't inform me as soon as she knew. She said that her loyalties laid with her friend more than with me. Okay, fine. I asked her what about the affair partner, and she said that she doesn't know as it was a one-time thing. Apparently it happened during her work time, whatever that meant, and during the daytime, as she's been told. I mean, I'm not fully understanding, but it seems like she screwed a guy when she was supposed to be working. Many of you are suggesting that I go through her phone or other social contacts, but I don't know any passwords. I never doubted her. We weren't controlling of each other and had and gave plenty of privacy. The next step is informing the family, both mine and hers. I'm adding another thing. I don't hate the baby, and I'm not so deranged to throw him out of the house. Whatever happens, happens, according to procedure. I'm not going to instantly abandon a kid just because he isn't mine. I know that you're not going to do it, and I understand the position that you're in, but at the same time, I wouldn't blame you if you did either. This is never going to be an easy decision to make either way, but I don't think you're morally obliged to hold on to that child and raise it if you don't want to. Yes, some people might think you're a monster, but at the end of the day, is raising this child yourself going to be the best outcome for that child? And in extension, is it going to be the best outcome for you? Will you truly be happy with that? And will you not grow to resent the child more and more over time? So yeah, I don't know. I think personally, you're not the asshole here for wanting to give your son up, but either way, I won't blame you for your choice. And now, onto the update. Thanks to everyone who reached out with advice and support. I didn't get to respond to every message, but I really appreciate it. After finding out my son isn't biologically mine, I decided to tell both my family and my in-laws. My family was shocked and angry about everything, but they stood by me. My in-laws were also shocked, but didn't believe it at first. They asked to see the DNA test results, and after seeing them, they suggested that we do a second test with both families present, just to be sure. They said that if it confirmed he isn't mine, my late wife's sister, who has a 4-year-old daughter, would adopt him, and I could take my name off the birth certificate if I wanted. I agreed, and we did the test yesterday. Results should come in about a week. Honestly, I'm relieved with how things are playing out. There hasn't been any drama, and everyone has been understanding. I've also talked to a lawyer who said getting my name off the certificate should be straightforward with the test results. Thank you all again for the support, and for those who offered to adopt him. I'm sorry, but your kindness means a lot. I'll update when the final results are in. In the comments, Sanquinoxia says, "Not the asshole. This is heartbreaking knowing the last living piece of your wife's memory is now just a reminder of her betrayal. I don't know. I think knowing she was a scumbag could also make it easier to let go of the idea that a perfect life was ripped from his grip. Like, shitty in the short term, but wouldn't you rather have a dead crappy ex than a dead great one?" Well, when you put it like that, man, it just makes it all the better, right? Not the best outcome, but what can you do? Keen to see this final update. And now, onto the final update. The baby's gone. The results came back 2 days ago. As expected, I'm still not the father. By the time the results came in, I had already packed up most of the baby's things. My mum was staying with me, helping take care of the baby and keeping me sane throughout all of this. This morning, my late wife's parents, sister, and brother-in-law came to pick him up. The handover was smooth, except for a snarky comment from my wife's sister. She said that I seemed too eager to let the baby go. I didn't respond. There was no point, but it stung. Despite that, my in-laws, her parents, were supportive throughout and told me going no contact would be best for everyone involved. I agreed. It's painful, but I think it's the right choice. I hugged them goodbye and they left. They're good people, and I'll miss them. Now the house feels empty. My mum went back today but will return tomorrow to stay for about a week until things settle. Honestly, I feel relieved. Call me what you want, but I'm finally breathing again. This whole ordeal has been exhausting, but knowing that I can start fresh feels like a weight off my shoulders. As for my wife's belongings, I gave her jewelry to my in-laws. They didn't want anything else except for a few trinkets and pictures, so they told me that I could sell or donate the rest. I haven't decided what to do with it yet, but I'll figure it out. I didn't respond to comments on my last post because the hate was overwhelming and I was exhausted. My DMs were flooded with some of the vilest messages imaginable just because I chose not to raise a child that isn't mine and conceived through infidelity. To those who supported me, thank you. Your words helped me make decisions that I wasn't confident about before, and to those who criticized me, I appreciate the perspective. Even if I didn't agree, it made me think. For now, I'm taking a break from dating and focusing on myself. Maybe I'll buy a bike and get back into riding or hit the gym again. I just need to move forward. I'll be keeping this account for about a week before I delete it. Thanks again to those who took the time to support or challenge me. It's been a hell of a journey. In the comments, Gone Baby Thoughts says, wishing you healing and peace and a happy future. Same. OP has so much to mourn. He lost his wife, and then lost her again by learning about her infidelity, then lost his child when he learned it wasn't his. He's lost the support of family, in-laws, and has to get through this. There is no good way around it, only through it. All the best, OP. Be proud of yourself for making a hard decision, as it was the right thing to do for the child. I admire your strength and moving forward in your life, closing this chapter. We aren't promised a smooth path. Just know the possible blessings this child will bring to the family that's now missing one of their own. I'm sure the presence of this child has given them some comfort in her passing. Hats off to you, OP, for doing the right thing, as hard as it was for everyone involved. You made the right call for the baby and for yourself. The baby is in the hands of people who can love it the way that it deserves to be loved, and because of the circumstances of its conception, that wasn't you. Good luck moving forward. Don't listen to the hate. It's easy to pass judgment on someone else and try to act holier than thou. We have no idea how we would actually feel if placed in a situation like that. I'm sure the baby will be well taken care of. Take time for yourself and move forward. Can we point out how effing cowardly it is to hide in the DMs because you're too effing afraid to spew your vitriol where everyone can see? Like, it's the internet. You are already anonymous, so imagine how weak and pathetic you must be to have to hide even more by only spewing your bullshit when no one else can call you out on it. This is why naming and shaming should be allowed. Pull up the receipts, post them and the name, and let everyone see who these people really are. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.